I'll begin with an update on the fire situation in Denmark. I'm told that the fire is now a level 3 incident and remains uncontrolled and uncontained. There's about 60 firefighters on the scene actively fighting the fire. Roads in the area are closed and the William Bay National Park is closed. There's been some unconfirmed reports of property damage. DFES advises parts of the state, including the Midwest, Southern Wheatbelt, Upper Great Southern, are continuing to face dangerous bushfire conditions with more hot weather forecast today and tomorrow. So it's important to remind everyone to keep safe and follow the Department of Emergency Services advice. I'd like to offer a big thank you to our emergency services workers for their efforts in Denmark and earlier this week at the fire in the Rockingham area, actually in my electorate. DFES will be providing further updates later today. Now to today's COVID update. Firstly, can I pass on my thoughts and the thoughts of Western Australia to the people of the eastern states who had another tragic day of death yesterday. Victoria suffered 41 deaths, New South Wales 18, and Queensland had the worst day of the pandemic with 21 people passing away. So we pass on our thoughts to the eastern states. I don't have the figures on the other states yet, but it's certainly very tragic what's going on. WA recorded 26 new cases to 8 p.m. last night. This includes 25 new cases, one interstate traveller-related case. Of the 25 local cases, 21 are linked to current outbreaks, 4 are still being investigated. This takes the WA's total cases over the course of the pandemic to 1,666. 7,684 tests were performed yesterday. As of yesterday, WA's vaccination rate is at 97.8% first dose, those aged 12 and over. 92.8% second dose for those aged 12 plus. And 41.9% of Western Australians have had their third dose of 16 plus, which is the eligible cohort. You'll be aware of a doctor testing positive for COVID-19. The doctor is now in isolation for 14 days and will undergo testing. The doctor had attended a clinical course in a simulation room at QE2 Hospital. Public health officials are working hard to identify the contact. As always, please continue to check the list of exposure sites, follow the advice if you've been to a site, and if you are having symptoms, please get tested. With regard to school attendance this week, I can report the following figures for the first 5 days of the school year. Monday the 31st of January, 92.8%. Tuesday the 1st of February, 93%. Wednesday the 2nd of February, 92.7%. 3rd of February, 92.5%. These figures are in line with the first week attendance of pre-pandemic days. In 2019, the first week average was 94.3%, and in 2020 it was 93.2%. These are pleasing numbers and show parents are still confident sending their kids to school despite the difficulties that Omicron is presenting. We will continue to face challenges. I would like to thank parents, teachers, students and school staff for their understanding as we work through and they work through this period. We're here at Pacific National Rail this morning for the arrival of the first freight train delivering supermarket goods and other supplies into Western Australia via Kalgoorlie. Some of these supplies have been delivered via the land bridge that has been established following the very rare flooding event in South Australia. We expect to see these items delivered to distribution centres today and from there to supermarket shelves. I'd like to thank industry, Pacific National Rail, the Commonwealth and everyone else involved for their efforts to put these arrangements in place. Despite the disruption, it's important to remember there is plenty of food and essential goods available in WA. There is no need to purchase more than you need. The situation in South Australia will not impact upon the supply of most fresh produce, including meat, fruit and vegetables. The majority of fresh fruit consumed in our state is produced in Western Australia. So please do the right thing by your fellow West Australians and just buy what you need. The Transport Minister will update you further on that shortly. Today is February 5, the beginning of WA's updated safe transition settings. We're expecting up to 6,000 people to be arriving in Western Australia today under our expanded exemption criteria. Returning West Australians, people with direct family connections in WA, those with compassionate reasons for travel, students and essential workers with specialist skills. 6,000 people willing to do the right thing by our state and their loved ones and quarantine on arrival with important safety and testing measures. It's a big step forward, maybe not as big as some people had hoped, but it's the right step forward for Western Australia at this time. As Premier, I have a responsibility to make decisions in the interests of all Western Australians. It would have been irresponsible to have proceeded with our original plan, which was developed for the Delta variant, rather than the faster spreading Omicron variant. With our new plan from today, thousands of West Australians will safely reunite with loved ones. With around 17,000 already approved to arrive and quarantine over the coming week. As always, we continue to review our COVID settings and border controls based on the latest information to keep Western Australians safe. And finally, today I can announce Western Australians can now apply for the state government's $320 test and isolation payment. The payment will be made available to those required to isolate while awaiting a COVID-19 PCR test result and lose income as a result. The COVID-19 test isolation payment is part of Western Australia's updated Safe Transition Plan and applies to anyone who's had a PCR test since 23 December 2021. The payment for eligible workers living in WA, aged 17 years and over, who are unable to undertake paid work during the isolation period and do not have access to paid leave or other income. The payment is also available to eligible parents, guardians and carers who have lost income because their child or someone they care for has been directed to isolate while awaiting a COVID-19 PCR test result. Applicants have 3 weeks from the date of the COVID-19 PCR test to apply for the payment. Payment eligibility will be backdated to December 23, 2021 to cover those West Australians who needed to get tested and isolate while awaiting a PCR test result because of the Delta backpacker cluster. People tested between 23 December 2021 and 4 February 2022 will have until the 26th of February 2022 to apply for the payment. Making this payment available is important to ensure workers are not disincentivised from getting tested or properly isolating in order to slow the spread of the virus. The payment recognises not everyone can work from home or has access to leave. This includes self-employed people, casual workers, full-time and part-time permanent employees. This supports those doing the right thing by staying home and helping to keep the community safe. Importantly, it's also available to parents, guardians and carers who lose income because they are required to isolate along with someone they care for who is awaiting a PCR test result. I'll now hand over to the Transport Minister and come back for questions.
Thank you, Premier. Can I also thank everyone in industry across the community who are helping us as a community get through these supply chain challenges. As you can see behind us, the first train that left Kalgoorlie as part of the new land bridge has arrived, carrying a lot of containers, including 6 containers of food and other refrigerated goods. The train is carrying back many stranded containers in Kalgoorlie, but together with food. We also are seeing the arrival of the first trucks under our new modified conditions, new exemptions to allow bigger trucks to enter WA and bigger trucks to come into Perth. In relation to the containers, we expect around 24 containers of groceries to be arriving per day from Monday. And as we said, it's a land bridge concept. It's a combination of rail from the east coast, then it's trucks from Adelaide into Kalgoorlie, and then it's back in rail. We hope this will bring sufficient volume, or we know that this will bring volume into the state that will continue to allow groceries to be distributed to the distribution centres and then into our supermarkets. We have issued so far 65 permits for triple road trains to arrive into Western Australia and 63 permits for the double road trains to come into the city. So again, on those trucks, we'll be bringing in the groceries that will again supply our distribution centres, which will allow the retailers to distribute them to our supermarkets. Yesterday, I had another major discussion with industry, including all the major trucking companies, together with the retailers to make sure we continue to work together over this time. In relation to the groceries that are available, and the Premier highlighted, fresh fruit and vegetables are sourced in WA, so as many other essentials like our meats. So please buy what you need. There'll be sufficient food, and we're all working together, both the federal government, the state government, across other state governments, to make sure we can continue to provide groceries into our supermarkets. In relation to the rail work that's happening, the ARTC crews are working around the clock to repair the damage in South Australia. We understand over 100 workers are working 24/7 to fix the damage. WA has also sent crews from Kalgoorlie, and material has also been sent from both WA and of course in South Australia to help fix the problem. So over 50,000 tonnes of ballast and rock are being moved to help establish the rail link yet again. So we are all working together. As I said, it's pleasing to already see the new train enter into this freight terminal. We've got the trucks entering. We're also continuing to negotiate in relation to shipping. And from the feedback yesterday on the retailers, many retailers are entering into direct relationships or direct contracts with shipping companies. And as a result, we're expecting to see more volume over the next 2 weeks. While ships do take longer, they do carry volume, and they will help address some of the backlog that would have taken longer to fix. So, as we said, we're all working together, all types of transport, both including air, road, rail and ships, to make sure we can bring as much product over as soon as possible. And of course, just buy what you need, and there is plenty of the fresh produce available sourced from WA. Thank you very much. Any questions on this issue?
Rita, can I just get this clear? So what's happening with the trucks is that they're leaving Adelaide. They would go to Kalgoorlie, is that right?
Yes.
And then from Kalgoorlie it's put onto trains?
Yes.
Which is what we're seeing here. What would normally have happened?
Well, normally they would have been on train all the way from the east.
All the way from the east.
Yeah, so yes.
Yeah.
And so 80% of our processed or manufactured goods come on rail. So as you can tell, there's a heavy reliance on rail, and that's a good thing. But because of this disruption, a 1 in 200 year event, it's had a major disruption to that supply chain. So as a result, there's rail, then road, then rail. But this train in particular has been bringing back stranded containers that were in South Australia and WA.
And the one that's arrived, there's so many containers, sorry, did you say?
There's over 100 containers. Many of those are stranded containers, but 6 of those are the groceries, and another 12, we expect another 24 per day of groceries.
So 6 containers have arrived today?
Yes.
Groceries.
Yep.
Can you give me an idea what's in those?
They'll be packaged goods, mainly packaged goods. So I'm not sure exactly what's in there. I'm sure everyone is very keen to find out what's in there. But it's basically packaged goods, and we continue, as I said, there'll be trucks bringing over packaged goods. And as all those that have been shopping, in particular, not only in the past week, but over the past 4 weeks, know, in particular because of other issues that have happened in the East Coast, in relation to the widespread COVID in their processing and manufacturing plants, that there's been some other supply issues, particularly in the East Coast, in the production of some of these goods.
So there'll be 24 a day?
24 on the train, plus we expect I'd suspect probably about 60 trucks coming per day as well. And they're containers that handle many pallets of groceries inside.
So 24 containers from Kalgoorlie on the train, right?
Yes.
A day?
Yes.
Yep.
And so with that 24 number, how much would it normally be? Do we have any idea of how many days it would be going?
Well, it would have been a lot more, but we're not giving exact figures yet because we really want to see how many are coming over on truck, because we expect there'll be a large volume of trucks. So, for example, the major trucking companies are working really well, redirecting trucks where they can from other states and helping in our efforts. So everyone is working together, and what I've said is there's over 60 permits already issued, so we're expecting a large volume of trucks to be bringing the freight over. So it is about sourcing the trucks, sourcing the drivers, but as I said, industry is working really well. We had a major hookup yesterday with trucking companies based over East, Western Australian, plus the retailers, making sure we're doing everything possible to remove the hurdles to make sure we can get that product in WA. But can I also acknowledge the federal government? They have also convening federal government meetings to make sure that everyone's on the same page. And we're also currently today be having further discussions with shipping companies to see what else we can do to assist the shipping of more product into WA.
You know, when you mentioned permits, you mentioned triple. What are they? Triple.
So many would know that there have been limitations of the size of trucks that can go down the Great Eastern Highway into the city. But what we're doing is we've got a series of exemptions. In particular, normally the trucks would have to break up, i.e. lose a trailer, just have one trailer going down the hill from Northam. We are now allowing the doubles to come down the hill. Down the hill, and as a result, that will see bigger trucks come down the hill. They're under escort, so for safety reasons, they'll be escorted with flashing lights so people are aware that there's bigger trucks. But that will save, for example, about 3 hours for a driver from Northern to Perth. And that's a big saving when we're trying to go back and forward and bring a lot of volume. Triples will go into Kalgoorlie, and that's not normally the case. Triples and doubles.
Is the bulk of this freight that's coming during this interim period going to be on rail or on the road?
Probably on the road, but there'll be a good mix. And like I said, there's also going to be on sea too. So it's been really interesting seeing everyone work together to identify the ships that are available, because we don't normally load and unload groceries from one state to the other. So negotiating with ports, making sure we have the right infrastructure at all the ports has been another element of it. So it's not only finding the ship, but understanding how we're going to load and unload the ship. And so everyone, including the ports and the other states, I've got to thank the Tasmanian government. They've been offering assistance as well. So, and also they're also requiring some products from WA too. So it's not only us that need their product, they need our products too.
And with that as well, you said ships are going to address that backlog. A couple of days ago, the backlog was estimated many months.
Yeah.
Has that been revised now at all?
Not yet. I think we're really going to have to see how much product we move every day. So as I said, each day new ideas are coming forward and things are looking more and more prospective. So for example, shipping many retailers weren't that supportive probably 3 or 4 days ago, but because of the work being undertaken, the ability to exit and enter ports, and also the availability of some ships in Australian waters, that's looking more prospective, and that will very much assist with that backlog issue.
Do we know how many workers were sent from Kalgoorlie to man that South Australian railway?
There are ARTC workers, I can get those figures, but we have an estimate of 100 workers working in South Australia 24/7. Thank you.
Good stuff. Right, any questions for me?
Premier, a group of families and other people were gathered down the beach at caseload today regarding the continued closed border beyond February 5, saying that they're asking for more compassion for families to be able to reunite beyond what you've already done, saying that there can be a balance with protecting people's health as well.
Yeah, we've struck the balance. So we have nearly 6,000 people coming in today. There's around 20,000 G2G passes approved. But these people just have to adhere to the safety regime. But as you can see, thousands of people are, and this provides the opportunity for families to reunite in a safe way whilst Western Australia gets its third dose vaccination rate up. What we saw in Queensland yesterday was 21 people die of COVID. Of that 21, 19 had not had their third dose. The Chief Health Officer in Queensland said that the third dose is crucial to saving lives. So you can see why we're doing this. We just want to save more lives. At the same time, we're providing the opportunity for people to reunite safely, and thousands of people are taking that opportunity.
What percentage third dose are you targeting?
Oh, we want to get as high as we can. As you can see, we've got, at first dose, we're about 98%, second dose, we're about 93%. You might recall over the course of the last year or so, lots of people of prominence said we wouldn't make it, and we've made it easily. So the measures we've used have worked, and our third dose rate goes up considerably each and every day.
We're in the middle of a freight crisis. Air is another way to ship goods. Could we have killed two birds with one stone by opening our airports up more and allowing more ships to come through and passengers return to WA?
Allow more ships to come through
Well,
airports.
allow more planes to come through, rather.
Right, that would be interesting. The rail and road are the most efficient ways of transporting freight in large volume. So that's why this measure is the most important. Air freight does not do the volume we need. So when it comes to some of those packaged goods, some of the chilled goods, some of the factory produced goods out of the east, it's road and rail is the main game. And so that's why the measures we're putting in place are designed to get more in. This will be a temporary thing. This will go for some weeks, and I understand it's inconvenient. But the main thing is we have lots of fresh produce, we have meat, we have vegetables, we have eggs, all those things in our supermarkets. So people aren't going to go hungry. It will be a difficult period for some weeks whilst we get the rail line fixed, or whilst the Commonwealth gets the rail line fixed in South Australia. But in the meantime, this measure is a good measure.
When can we expect to see the quarantine period after 14 days?
Yeah, well, as I said repeatedly, that's something we are considering, and the advice is that you do that when you get to higher case numbers, when you get to, you analyse the transmission rate, you analyse what's happening out there in the community over time. New South Wales did it at 40,000 cases a day. We're obviously not going to do that. We'll do it far sooner than that. And other states did it at tens of thousands of cases a day. We're currently, 25 cases a day. So if I'll just finish. So our measures will be based upon health advice, but clearly we're not going to wait as long as New South Wales and Victoria and the other states did. We'll do it far quicker than they have.
We've made exemptions for students to return to WA and get through the border easier. We also make exemptions for them when it comes to quarantine, and reducing it down to 7 days from opening schools to get back to teaching.
Yeah, in due course that will occur. And just on schools, just so you know, there's 5 schools impacted. It's around 1,000 students and 98 staff. For the first 2 weeks of school in Queensland, every school is closed. So that's the best part of 1 million students not going to school. So their problem is about 1,000 times worse than ours. So our situation is not comparable to the other states, but it's going to get worse over time. So as we got more spread of the virus, as we moved to these measures, 7-day quarantine and the like, you'll see more of the virus in Western Australia. That will have a greater impact on schools over time. So at the moment we're trying to keep the impact as low as possible whilst we get the 3rd dose vaccination rate and whilst we allow kids to get vaccinated. The 5 to 11 age group has not had that long to get vaccinated. So all those things are considerations, but today Queensland has no schools open. South Australia, only half the kids are going to school, half. That's hundreds of thousands not going to school. Victoria and New South Wales have had hundreds upon hundreds of schools impacted by COVID. Victoria has had schools closed for months and months and months on end over the course of the last 2 years. We've avoided virtually all of that. And our current issue is 5 schools, which of course is debilitating for the students impacted, but not a single school in Western Australia is closed. Despite some of the reporting, not a single school in Western Australia is closed.
So Premier, that rule, if you like, that you go into 14 days quarantine, not just for the schools, but for people that have to isolate, you're saying that at some point, obviously that will be reduced to 7, but it's obviously something that you just have to continue to monitor. That's what you're saying is
that's
it
correct.
Will go to 7?
That's correct. I've said that many times, and I don't expect it will be that far away. But
in the measure of February,
I don't expect it will be that far away. But
school holidays in April.
Yeah, I don't expect it will be that far away. But we'll just continue to monitor and take health advice.
Premier, one of the sorry, no, just on that, just one more. One of the issues seems to be with some families that, sure, you do the 14-day quarantine when you arrive in Perth today, let's say from over east, but that all members of your household will have to quarantine with you if you live under the same roof. Is that something that may be tweaked, if I can use that expression, sooner than coming down to 7 days? Is that a clause or a ruling that you think will change when the 7 days comes in? Or
depends upon the accommodation arrangements. So if you can isolate effectively, well, then you can do so. If you can't, well, then your family has to quarantine with you. It just depends upon the individual circumstance.
Given the relaxation of exemption rules today, do you expect numbers to start creeping up? I mean, numbers have hovered around, the teens, the early 20s. Do you expect them to steadily rise with more people coming in?
We do expect numbers to rise. This is going to happen. Admittedly, our measures we put in place have kept numbers low, at this point in time, but we do expect numbers are going to rise. But what we've done differently is we just haven't deliberately introduced thousands of infected people into the community, which would have resulted in huge numbers of people dying and massive economic dislocation. And I know it's caused some consternation. I know some people haven't liked this, but the measures we put in place have saved hundreds of lives and thousands of jobs. Now, if you have a look at what's going on in the other states in terms of the impact on their economy with mass spread of the virus, it's very debilitating, very debilitating. Now, we've avoided that for the last 2 years. The measures we're putting in place, whilst we get to a higher vaccination level of both kids and adults, third dose, will save countless lives and save countless jobs.
What's the point of keeping the international arrivals capped at hotel quarantine? We know those same passengers flying into other Australian capital cities being reclassified as domestic travellers and being allowed to isolate at home.
That's under review, obviously. I've explained this many times, but that's under review. Obviously we have to keep the hotel quarantine system in place. So I'll explain why. Some states got rid of the hotel quarantine system. So that means when they have mass spread of the virus, some people can't quarantine anywhere. They don't have a venue in which to quarantine. So basically some people are in effect made homeless by this. So by having the quarantine system and the hotels in place, we have the opportunity for people in due course to have somewhere to quarantine, whether they're a close contact or more likely a positive case. So that gives us that flexibility, certainly why the quarantine centre in Bullsbrook is being built, and so that's why we have to keep the system in place. But the arrangements, all of these arrangements are under review. As I've said, we expect some of the rules will change soon, but we're just analysing and getting health advice on it. I just make you aware, the disruption that's going on now in Western Australia is tiny compared to what's going to happen. Because as you get more cases, certainly if we were to open the borders, it would be hugely worse. So that's why we're proceeding safely and cautiously.
Are the different systems for international and domestic travellers incentivising overseas arrivals to go to these COVID hotspots in order to get back to Perth quicker?
Yeah, that's why it's under review.
But how many of the, I think, 17,000 over the coming weeks, how many of those are international returnees?
I don't have those figures, but it's under review.
Premier, I just want to just go back to one point. When I looked at the new rules which were released, I think on Jan 20, when you announced that you'll wait on that full border reopening, it says quite clearly that if you need to quarantine, all members under that same roof would have to quarantine. Is that correct?
Look, it depends upon individual circumstances. So, some houses are differently constructed to others, but often people have to quarantine together. It just depends upon the analysis of the venue in question.
And so you've said it repeatedly today, and I detect in your voice a bit of annoyance that you have to keep saying it. But
Not at all, Joe.
Maybe
I like repetition.
I've been away from
I'm very used to it.
Maybe I'm just very.
I'm very used to repetition. Repetition is my middle name.
So you keep making the comment that the rules will be are being reviewed, and unless I'm reading it wrong, changes will be announced soon. That's correct, isn't it?
Yeah, but I've said that for weeks. Not weeks, but maybe a week. Obviously, you have to analyse as the numbers increase, but I'll just repeat to you. New South Wales was getting tens of thousands of cases a day, as was Victoria, before they moved to the new rules.
Yep.
And the reason you don't want to move just immediately is because you'll promote the spread of the virus. So you just got to judge these things and calibrate them very carefully.
Would those change of rules coincide with a new fully reopening date?
Not necessarily,
no.
On the Prime Minister.
So with the reopening date, the Prime Minister did back us, by the way, on the border.
Yep.
I'm pleased the Prime Minister has backed us on the border, and he understands the benefit of it. And as he said, Omicron is completely different to Delta. They're going through it over east. The spread of the virus, the impact on the community, the number of people dying, as I outlined to you before, has completely transformed everything. And we would have been foolish to have stuck with complete reopening and seeding thousands of cases on the first day on February 5. It just would have killed huge numbers of people and cost us thousands of jobs. So obviously I had to change. And I know that's caused some concern for some people. But, you know, saving lives and saving jobs is actually important, and that's why we did what we did.
On the Prime Minister and the texts by Barney Joyce, you've had a lot to do with the Prime Minister during the pandemic. Do you think he's a hypocrite and a liar?
I'll just leave that one alone.
Okay. How would you describe his character then?
Are you asking every Premier this?
Yep.
I'm not getting into that. I'm not getting into all that sort of character assassination stuff. Look, this is an internal Liberal Party, National Party matter. It's a matter for them.
Just one more on that then. Does he twist the truth to suit his own agenda?
I'm not engaging, Nick. I'm not engaging. I mean, this is a matter. You know, this is their issue, and I'll leave it to them. But I will say one thing. I reckon Gladys Berejiklian's texts about me would be far worse than what she says about Scott.
What do you think she might say?
I don't know. I haven't seen them, but I think it'd be pretty bad.
Can I ask you about? I know you're not a big cricket.
How do you know?
Well, you've said that in previous
Yeah, well,
press conferences.
maybe
You
I've
don't know
changed.
an awful lot about
Things
cricket.
change.
Justin
COVID,
Langer,
you know, things change quickly.
Justin Langer standing down as cricket coach. What do you make of that?
Look, I'm sure many West Australians will be disappointed by this. Obviously, the team has been very successful. Look, can I pass on our best wishes and thanks for what he's done?
You mentioned the doctor that went to QE2 and tested positive. Just checking. I think there's around a dozen doctors that are isolating. Have they tested positive yet? And are they still isolating?
They're isolating. I'm not advised any of them have been tested positive.
Justin Langer, you know, head coach, a leader, and so forth, and he had some success, and he still didn't get support from various players, it would seem. Leadership a hard gig?
Jeez, Joe, that's leading. That's leading. Well, cricket's a lot like politics, you know. Sometimes you're successful, sometimes you're not, and sometimes it doesn't depend upon how much work you do. There's just factors outside your control. I don't know why he's resigned. I don't know the reasons behind that. I don't know why there was all this consternation. But it's obviously a very sad and emotional day for him and his family and his friends. Thank you.
Thank you.